All right. Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Quite an exciting day here in the markets. I'm going to go ahead and pull up today's price action. As you guys can see, new highs from our low on July 4th, right? We bottomed here at 53, 54K. We're now at 66, pushing upon 67, right? I think, once you get above, once you get above like this little region here, man, if we can close the weekly 66, 67, basically right around these levels, I think we'll be okay. Checking the top gainers. What a shocker, right? Soul memes. Who could have foreseen? Isn't it kind of crazy, guys, how we have an ETH spot ETF going live, and yet soul memes are basically outperforming everything on the day? You have Mishi, Billy, Retardio, Aura, quite a few names that, Mog is up quite a bit today, man. So, yeah, as you guys can see, I'm outside here with Joshua, Jake, and Louie T. Before I get started, guys, go ahead and smash that like button, smash it up. Some pretty interesting price action also as well here with coin stock up, 62% on the year. Check out the 5-day. Essentially, once again, new highs for coin stock since basically the entire summer. New summer highs, basically. And year to date, we're about 8-9% for making new year to date highs. And guys, it's very interesting, man, how Germany essentially sold their stack to Larry Finkelstein and GCR. Isn't that crazy, right?
I love
And
it. I love it.
and if you've been in these markets for multiple years now, right? Like your dream scenario was Wall Street coming in and setting up an infinite swap, right, on these markets. And how is it that right when all that happens, and you even have the current Republican candidate for presidency, Donald Trump, talking about having a U.S. dollar backed by BTC, now is when people want to dubiously speculate that we're never gonna see all that rampant price action from previous cycles. It's just absolutely insane. It's incredible. We have all the stars aligning, right? Mega cap tech earnings next week. You also have, of course, the BTC conference, which is probably going to be the largest crypto conference in our entire lifetimes ever, 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 ever. This will never happen again, right? This is the first time that this industry is going to be in a global stage. So, Louis, man, thanks for hopping on, man. Hopefully, me and you can live stream every Friday, man, instead
Yeah.
of spaces, right? And we
Yeah.
also have Joshua Jake, who's come on here a lot, man. So I'll start off with Josh, man. Josh, I see you have something pulled up here, man. So, oh, you're not
My
ready,
bad.
brother?
No,
My
you're
bad.
good. I'm just like something breaking that just happened. And I'm like,
Yeah,
holy smokes, I gotta
yeah,
tweet it out.
brother, man. So,
Uh,
how are you feeling with everything, man? We've got Larry Fink again on national TV, really preaching the gospel on the digital asset industry, and of course, again, just taking a look at Sol right against ETH. It seems like the market is now trying to front run a Solana ETF, right? Which
mhm.
may come, perhaps after the election, or if the stars align, right? Like if the stars align and I was Larry Fink and all those people, I would probably have it if in early Q1 of next year, right? As we all know, Q1 of the post halving year does tend to be one of the most explosive quarters in the entire bull cycle for crypto, right? But Josh, before I pass it out over to you guys, smash up the like button, smash it up. Really helps out with the algorithm. I go live here on the channel only once a week, guys. So just to bring more exposure due to the algorithm, all that stuff, the mega cap evil corporations. Smash up that like button. I'm here live with Louie T and Joshua Drake, and we're going to be here for about an hour, dubiously speculating on all things crypto, market narratives, price action, and just overall banter and rants, man. So, what's going on, Josh? How's your Friday going?
Friday's going great. It's exciting to see these, Bitcoin prices back up to 65, 66.5 now, almost $67,000. 2 weeks ago, everybody was running for the hills. They were selling at the bottom of these markets again, and we've been covering the liquidation models, which actually I should pull those up too. Just on what we've been looking at in these markets, it's been very clear that it's been very, very, very bullish while people have been very, very bearish. We finally bounced back and wiped out all those liquidations. So are we going to continue higher? I don't necessarily know. We are seeing a massive short squeeze. I mean, going from $53,000 to $67,000 is not a small jump. So I personally would like to see some consolidation. But to your point, next week is going to be the biggest crypto conference in history and could be, throughout the rest of history. We have not only one presidential candidate, we have two presidential candidates, and we have one that very likely will be the 47th president of the United States, speaking with Vivek Ramaswamy. JD Vance, who I believe will be attending. There's now rumors that Elon Musk might be showing face. There's a lot of rumors and explosions around this event, and the tickets prices have gone through the roof. So, currently what we're seeing with these markets is it's very, very bullish. I think everybody expects, Bitcoin to break past all-time highs. And I mean, for every right reason. You have, of course, not only presidential candidates that are very bullish on crypto and want to tokenize most of your systems. You're now completely seeing a shift in financial systems. I mean, Jamie Dimon, rumored to be Treasury Secretary under the Trump administration, starting to pivot towards a pro-Bitcoin initiative, realizing, people do change. You saw it with Larry Fink over the last 5 years. People are going to say, oh, he's bad for the industry. He's bad for the sector. You guys got to realize when you build these cabinets at this political, in these political positions, retail has a very weak-minded perspective on the overall value that can be provided by these new cabinet members. You have to have Jamie Dimon switch. There's no, bottom feeder that is brand new to the industry that's going to step in and replace the Jamie Dimon with this beautiful, strong pro-crypto stance and democratic perspective. That's not how this game of TradFi works. Crypto is Wall Street 2.0. So if you're going to play that game, if you want to change it, you have to change it from within. And unfortunately, you got to pick and choose who you want that to be. Under the Trump administration, you're going to have a lot of ties to people like Peter Thiel, who's very, very supportive of JD Vance, of course, who is very, very pro-crypto now, and has talked heavily against people like Gary Gensler. If you have the Biden administration, you have people like Elizabeth Warren, who have the anti-crypto army, and she was given complete oversight and veto capabilities of any commissioner that essentially Joe Biden wanted to establish in 2020. That was the reason why she stepped down and endorsed him. She just pulled views and votes from Bernie Sanders. And so you're not choosing a political candidate, right? You're choosing a political cabinet. And it's very clear that the right this time is very, very pro-crypto, and there's a lot more bullishness that will follow that versus choosing that left party here. And so seeing that, anticipate, of course, after the Trump attempt here just last weekend, you saw Bitcoin and the crypto market, skyrocket, because obviously his polling and his the overall market's perception of where he is going to be in November's election, they're taking their bets on that massively. And it's seen in the markets. Markets never lie. The price and valuation never lies. And so we see that starting to flow over. You bring up a lot of good points. Solana starting to definitely, 10%. We're at $170 Solana again. It's almost $80 billion market cap. There's speculation around a Solana ETF. If that party were to be put into office, you're probably looking at DeFi ETFs. You're probably looking at Solana ETFs. You're probably looking at AI ETFs. There's things that could be adopted over the course of the next 2 to 3 years that are very bullish for these markets. And Solana specifically makes up of, I pulled up the Dune metrics here, like 30% of the overall volume on DEXs. This is where you have more volume than really any infrastructure play out there. And VCs are going to want to access that. Even though it might be meme coins, people might hate meme coins. Meme coins trade. Meme coins make a ton of volume. And just like some people hate Vegas, Vegas ain't going anywhere. In fact, it's getting bigger. And that's the same thing with this meme market. So I'm very bullish. I'm looking at what's happening in the news right now, which is primarily the tokenization of most products, as well as, Binance coming out today and getting judged to sign off to invest customer assets into U.S. Treasury bills. This is the most bullish narrative for me this cycle. There's not a narrative that is more bullish than tokenization. I've been talking about this since the overall tokenized treasury market was less than $100 million. It is almost 20x in the last 6 months. Today, Ondo Finance just surpassed BlackRock in the largest market cap tokenized protocol on this market. So these are, products I've been watching for a very, very long time. I've been watching BlackRock absolutely explode, now $520 million. But Ondo just passing to that is insane to see. And we're about to break, $2 billion here. And you have Maker investing another $1 billion next month as of August 12th. And seeing, again, Binance and these institutions and these corporations, it's a domino effect. You're going to see more and more starting to adopt U.S. treasuries. And while the world's screaming, oh, China's selling U.S. treasuries, oh, Japan's selling U.S. treasuries, the U.S. dollar is going to collapse, these corporations have bigger GDPs than these countries. And so when they start putting 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, Tether claims to have 100%, that's almost $100 billion in U.S. treasuries. The way this crypto market's going, we're looking at $400, $500, $600 billion in treasuries, and they're going to want to tokenize those because it opens it up to 24/7, 365 liquidity, and governance models that have not existed in history itself before. So I am very bullish, Wabi. Thank you for having me on today, and I'm excited to kind of break down these markets. It is heating up.
Man, dude, that was a great opening statement, man. Something else that I want to open. So something else that I want to point out, right? Talking about RWAs and real world assets and all that stuff, man. I think people forget that, like, Tether and USDC are basically the RWAs. And I mean, if you guys can check out my screen here, right? Tether, let me bring it up right here. Tether has basically been up only since our lows, right? Added 2 bill in market cap, right? Same thing with USDC, right? USDC is kind of seen as like, I guess, like, Wall Street CBDCs or something like that, right? At least that's the dubious speculation that this is all like, a warm up to what could eventually be a CBDC or whatever, right? It's basically Wall Street stablecoin, right? So basically, since the lows, again, we've added about 2 bill plus, right? So, if you add in that and you add in, easier monetary policy about to come in, and basically just like innovation being pushed, right? Usually after election years, there does tend to be a period of easing, right? And it's been almost a year since the Fed, did their last rate hike, right? And I know the market right now is pricing in about 99% chance that Jerome Powell is going to have that first cut. So it usually the first 2 rate cuts are kind of bearish for the market, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the next quarter after the market digests those rate cuts, we could essentially begin our ascent, right? And again, as you mentioned, right, BlackRock is already in the system. They have all their products with their ETFs. They also have their Buildo program where they have $500 million on chain. So, although it may seem boring, right, when people talk about RWAs and all that stuff, the fact of the matter is, if you're a liquid player, right, in Wall Street and all that stuff, you're not really going to buy memes, right? You're going to buy the high caps, right? You're going to buy things that appreciate on a slower scale, right? That's why it starts off with BTC, and then they kind of go down the rabbit hole and all that stuff, right? And back to one of your opening points, right, with memes and all that stuff, that's great for retail, right? NGU technology, number go up. That's the thing that attracts people to these markets, right? So I think Sol's probably a leader within that market, man. But man, it's great to have you here, and I'm also here joined by Louie. So Louie, man, I see you have your charts pulled up, man. I'll go ahead and add that to the stage. So we actually put in a 4-hour candle. We're about to put in
weekly is insane,
right? That's all I need to show. I'll see you guys later.
You can hear me, Louie?
Yeah. Go ahead, Robin.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, we're about to put in like fresh 4-hour highs from our low of July 4th. And truth be told, guys, I don't know if I'm going crazy here, but I kind of think of July 4th as the start of a new cycle, in the same sense as like when we bottomed in July of 2021, right? And again, I want to pull up some perspective, man, but in July of 2021, right, the market was absolutely nuking across the board due to fears of inflation, right? And this time around, we nuked down only in the crypto market while stocks were going up only because we had Germany dumping in our heads during one of the most low volume periods in the entire year, right? July is typically slower, but going into the second half, going to August, things do tend to ramp up a bit, and there's a possibility for a multi-week breadth rally here in these markets. But I think 67K, blow through 67K, close the weekly, bro. I think the 0.618 is right around like 83K, 82K and some change. I think we go straight up there in a straight line very, very quickly. And as Josh has mentioned on our shows, right, whenever BTC has these moves, either the upside or the downside, they happen very fast, and it's usually due to liquidation. And if you guys take a look at the liquidation to the upside, bro, we tap 72K again, man. All bears are completely destroyed. So my opinion, man, the path of least resistance is to the upside, and I think small caps earlier this week kind of gave the sign with how this market can move, man. But great to have you on, Louie. What's going on, brother?
What's going on, Wabi? What's up, Josh? Yeah, I mean, this is the weekly chart, and it's very, very clear. I mean, it's Friday, so we have 2 days left, but it's very, very clear that July 4th, July 5th move was a bear trap. deviation type event here. We basically engulfed that whole move. We came right into key demand here back from the 2021 highs. We had a lot of demand there, a lot of support. People didn't look too far enough to the left to notice that. And Bitcoin's doing what Bitcoin likes to do. It has these cascade liquidation events. Most people that have been, basically a lot of people came into the markets here. A lot of excitement about Bitcoin here, guys. ETF, all-time highs. Some retail crowd came in here and they got chopped up in this. And guess what? They likely puked here. And now, like I was saying 2 weeks ago when we were getting this move, was that it's not Bitcoin. If it does spring out of this liquidation event, this cascade, it's not going to give anyone a chance to get back in. It never usually does. If it does, it's going to be probably past the old all-time high or maybe at range highs. But in pure Bitcoin fashion, we got that liquidation, we got that bear trap, and now we are pushing higher here. And if we get a weekly close looking like this, I like Wabi was saying, I think we're on track for another leg of this cycle, which would line up with what we've seen historically with Bitcoin. And let's drop it down a bit. And we have this range view, right? Let's go to the 9 hour. Get rid of the drawing tool.
Louie, and what are your thoughts, man, on like the prospect that we might be in the same environment, right, in the crypto market as we were in mid-October, late October, where the equity markets were still kind of pulling back, and we still eventually pushed and made newer ranges, right? We pushed through 35K, which, everyone was saying, oh, that's the top, that's it. And I kind of feel, right, if we do end up testing, our prior range highs at 69, 70K, we're going to blow right through it, completely blow right through it. I think we've been conditioned over the last, 5 months now that, oh, that's it, bro. Once we get into the upper 60s, that's resistance. That's it. SPX is topped. QQQ is topped. IWM gave the bat signal. And the fact of the matter is people aren't understanding, right? The IWM has basically been flatlined against the mega cap indices for over 3 years. For over 3 years. That is longer than the tech bear market that started in 2000, right? It's insane. It's insane. And, you put 2 and 2 together, right? If monetary policy is going to get easier, rates are going to come down lower, there's going to be some form of QE in the next 18 months. Like, you could actually say that SPX and IWM and the Qs started their next, macro multi-decade bull cycle when we bottomed out in late 2022. And when you factor in that with all these ETFs, you could say that at least for majors, the next bear market might actually look a lot different than prior bear markets where, instead of pulling back 70, 75%, maybe it's only 50%, right? What's a couple of percentage points among friends, right? So, that was a great chart, by the way, man. That weekly candle is, that is a bullish engulfing if I have ever seen one. And after this, man, after you cover the Russell and BTC, perhaps we can also cover ETH because, bro, truth be told, I think if you get above 3,700, we are going to test 4,400, which is our May 2021 highs. And I think it's going to happen quick. It's going to happen very, very, very quick. And people are going to remember why ETH is king when it comes to the high cap alts, man.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. And I bring up the Russell because I think this is our signal. This is what the signal that we need. And I honestly think this is a pure capital rotation play we're seeing. And for some reason, people don't fathom that. They think if the S&P or the NASDAQ aren't going up, nothing else can go up. I would beg to differ. And this is the signal that, it is kind of giving us that, like, okay, there's capital rotations from high, market cap assets into that lower end risk assets, lower down the risk curve. And this is IWM or Russell. And you can see a clear breakout in this range. We did break out of this range. When was this? Probably end of last year. And we've kind of just been chopping even more at range highs. And this is where a lot of people mess up. I started accumulating around this range. It wasn't easy to accumulate this range because you get a lot of fake outs, you get a lot of chop. But price was clearly coiling, pinching tighter and tighter, and bang, got a massive expansion move out. This is going to be likely probably a throwback to demand or a retest before we start continuing higher here. But this is the signal. This is the signal that people are taking profits from all the money they've made in the S&P, all the money they made in the NASDAQ. And now that they have all this house money, they have all their chips, now they're going to start dabbling lower and lower down the risk curve, maybe IWM, maybe crypto, maybe Bitcoin, and that perpetual cycle continues. It's really that simple. I mean, if you put it in a simple lens,
man,
okay.
we got to clip that. We got to clip that, man. If we make new highs next week, man, we're going to clip that, man.
All right, cool. Yeah. So that's the signal on the Russell. Man, Bitcoin's still pumping here too. It's so fun.
Yeah, it's about to hit 67.
Yeah, dude. Again, we're all terminally online. So if you're terminally online,
I'm not gonna say terminally ill.
That too.
I mean, yeah,
dude, degen syndrome.
Yeah.
If you stick around for more than one cycle and you still wake up every day excited, whether we're flatlining, whether we're going up only or down only, you probably will develop some sort of like. You'll develop some sort of quirk. I'll say that, right? And man, like it's a different story losing levels and then reclaiming them, right? Like when we rejected off of 67, right, a couple of weeks ago, that was bad, right? But the fact that we're pushing through these levels now with more volume, right? I think we're actually pushing through these levels a lot harder than how we were pushing up in June. If you guys remember, I think we opened up June. Actually, no, when we rallied in May, when we opened up in May at like 56, 57, and we had that rally all the way to range highs at 70K. And when we were pushing through, 62, 63, 64, I think the volume now is actually a lot more than how we were pushing through those levels before, right? And it's very telling. And you're even seeing that with the inflows, right, on the BTC ETFs, right? Like you're starting to see inflows again. You're starting to see stablecoin market cap again push to the upside after basically 4 months of doing nothing, right? So factor all that in, man. I think honestly, dude, the Q4 outlook and Q1 outlook of next year, man, when it comes to, upside price action, I think it's going to catch a lot of people upside. I mean, a lot of people offsides, right? And you typically have like, that late summer, like bottom or whatever. And that's it. That's your final opportunity. Right. And truth be told, right, we had alts across the board down 75%, 65%, right? You had with Pepe, Mog, all down 60+%, right? Soul memes, base memes, you name it, completely wrecked. And a lot of these, right, after the bounces that we've been having over the last, 2 weeks or so, they're up over 100+%. But you can honestly see the inactivity that people are having online, right? And, these larger players, right, they're buying your bags, right? So, and you see the volume profiles down there, dude. This
is a clear break of volume break here. This is a move on volume, a break. We tagged resistance at the mid range here of our larger scale range, consolidated, bang, and now we're breaking it on volume. That volume's the key here. That gives this move more legitimacy for sure. And if we can get above this this mid range here, I really think it's as simple as get above the mid range and we see range highs and old all-time highs here around like 72K, 73K. It's pretty that simple.
Josh, and what are you thinking, man, for next week? We have mega cap tech earnings. We have the BTC conference, the ETH spot ETF obviously going live, a ton of liquidations above overhead. We're obviously pushing through our previous range with a lot more volume than that entire dead cap bounce that we had in May. What are your thoughts, man, going into the second half of the summertime, brother? I know you're an individual that likes to keep up with how many liquidations are above head and kind of asking yourself, all right, if I was a market maker, how would I make the most money? If I was an exchange, what would be, the most profitable? If the market goes to the upside, to the downside? I'll go ahead and pull up your screen here right now, brother.
Yeah, so I mean, we're watching these liquidations play out in real time. And this is, like you said, I've been a huge advocate for this, and it's played out perfectly, right? We came down to 53.5, under $60,000. I was buying heavily, putting tons and tons of money into this market, looking for this liquidation zone, which we have broken. So we have eaten not only through the $65,000 liquidation zone on the monthly, we are now breaking up towards what, if you're going to see on the 3-month, is going to be that $72,000 mark. So 72,800 is that next significant liquidation zone, especially if you zoom out to the 6-month or yearly. It's very clear that this is where prices are heading. I mean, it is stacked up there. So if we jump to that range, you're talking, $12-13 billion in short positions that would have been set up. The only people shorting the market were retail. We were talking a little bit about like retail getting chopped here. Like they FOMO'd into the market. So what I really expect is market makers to take advantage of a transitional system. I don't expect a break past the 73,000 that shoots us up to 100K. I think as soon as we get to $70,000, you know what's going to happen? Retail is going to come back into this market, and we're going to see a pile up on liquidations. They're all going to long this thing to $100,000, and market makers are probably going to see us go to $78,000, and then we get another pullback to 70K. Wipes out those short positions again, or those long positions in that retail audience again. This is not only been a market maker's game, it is a market maker's game. And so what we know is that as we transition into these institutions, the institutions are going to do what institutions always do, and that is turn their zeros into ones. They are not retail, they're not emotional, and they're going to take advantage of these liquidation scenes that are stacking up. And we're starting to see that in real time. So, when we were down at these levels, when we were down at, $53,000, I was like, guys, why are you panic selling at these ranges? We just went from $15,000. Let's say we went from $30,000 all the way up to 70K without any significant pullback. That's insane, right? Then we get our first pullback was this first, false, bear trap, which got a lot of bears trapped into it again. We bounced back up to 72,000, and then we absolutely ate out all the retailer. How do I know retail is the one that got eaten up? Institutions weren't the ones on Twitter saying this market's boring. That was bears and retail. They were getting bare. They're capitulating with higher inflation in these markets, energy costs up, groceries up. They were being forced to sell off their positions, pay their rents, pay their phone bills, pay their debts, whatever it was. They were getting capitulated out of the market just off time basis. So it was always clear to me that we were going to come up to this liquidation zone as soon as institutions were ready to enter it. But let's zoom in now. Right now we're on the weekly. All your bears are gone. I mean, holy smokes, guys. This was last week. We're not even talking like, a month ago or 2 months ago. Last week, I was in arguments on Twitter with people telling me that their RSI theory, was that we were actually in a downtrend because on the daily, the RSI was oversold. And we're going to go to 46K. We're going to go to 33K. We're going to go to people saying 25K, saying this bear market was over. And I'm sure, Louie was seeing all the analysts going, oh, double tops in. We have another double top. And it's like, pattern trading, and I'm sorry, I think pattern trading is just astrology. That is where astrology comes into this. It's a lot higher of a gamble. I like smart money contracts. I like to see where money's flowing. I love Wyckoff redistributions. I love schematics, right? Because that tells us what institutions are doing. So now, not to be the bearer of bad news, but retail is heavily starting to, jump back. They're starting to get interest. They're starting to come back into these markets. And when you look on the 3-day, when you look at the 24-hour, I want steps up. I don't want us to break past 72 and instantly go to 85K. That's what would wreck retail the most, because they're not going to buy until we're after 75,000. They're all still on the sidelines saying, I'm going to wait for a pullback like they always do. And then once we break through it, the FOMO jumps in. So I personally would like to see steps up. If we are getting an all-time high next week, to your point, Wabi, we have Trump speaking, we have Ethereum ETFs releasing. There's a lot of bullish news happening. And, history shows that when we have that big amount of news come out, it's very retail focused, hypes around there. We're going to get a pullback afterwards. So, I'm just dollar cost averaging when we have the opportunities. I think the opportunity was, and I was very, very prominent about this, was between $53,000 and $61,000, dollar cost averaging heavily. I don't think we're going to just immediately break to that 100K level. And I could be wrong. Maybe we do get the short squeeze that has been, everybody's been waiting for. And also we break past that $100,000. But I think there's not enough pieces lined up. One, Trump's administration would need to be in power for us to see that. So this is my personal perspective. The reasons for that is because of all of the there's a lot of very bullish things he's going to do on the markets in terms of pro crypto adoption. One is obviously start instantly seeing those rate cuts. So not only are we going to see the profits taken from the Nvidia, the Nasdaq, the S&P flow into the Russell 2000, it's going to open up a lot more monetary, flow into what would be risk on assets as we reduce those interest rates. They're going to, reduce a lot of regulation. There's going to be a lot more institutional interest because of the legislation that is adopted based off the principles of the new administration. That's when we have JP Morgan. That's when you have Wells Fargo. That's when you have Goldman Sachs, which is already announced they're going to be tokenizing, creating 3 different tokenized plays over the next 12 months. That's when they're finally positioned in these markets. I do not believe there's enough institutional, traditional finance in this market to see that breakout to 150K yet. So I know I'm rambling on here, but my perspective is just simply, follow the liquidations. Louie pulled up some great analysis on the charts here, and I think that's going to play out pretty similar. But I would like to see a breakout to all-time highs, maybe 80K, maybe 85K, and you might be able to pull this out, Louie. But I think if you go from $90,000, so let's say $87,000, $89,000, if you pull out a 25 to 30% retracement, that brings us right back to the retest levels of what would be the breakout of this bull flag. So we've been seeing
you go to 90K and we pull back to the top of the range. That gives us a 20% pullback.
And we've been getting 20% pullbacks, this entire cycle. So I think,
I have the screen.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that is something that would play out. And to me, that is just the institutional interest. That's where they make the most amount of money. Retail gets wiped out, institutions take over, and the rest is history. That's the path. This is Wall Street 2.0. This is no longer, F you to the system. Bitcoin is fundamentally controlled on every infrastructure play by BlackRock. So, we lost faith in that when Ross Ulbricht went to prison in 2013. This is not some libertarian battle against the anti-system that we need to break away from some deep state policies that, a lot of maxis want to believe. It is just tokenizing the old system, making it incredibly profitable for that traditional system, and they're going to take advantage of that. So bullish.
Just speculating.
Yeah, we're actually like, if you pull up the 5-second chart, Louie, pull up the 5-second chart. Pull up the 5-second chart right now, brother.
Oh my god, I've never even gone on the 5-second chart, Wabi.
You're gonna see some beauty happening right now, man.
The 5.
I don't even get it. I need to fucking.
Dude, we've been pumping the entire stream, brother. The entire stream.
No, I know. Yeah.
Everything has just been sending. Like, dude, how long has it been since we had a melt up candle to the upside? How long has it been? 5 months, right?
Yeah. And over the 146 days.
Yeah, like since we bottomed, right, with FTX, we've only had a handful of days where the entire market experiences a breadth kind of rally, right? First rally was, and I think it was like mid-Jan of last year. And that was when we had that CPI print. And then March, right after, the SVB crisis, we pumped from 19K to like 27 in a day. And then the next candle was in July, right around this time last year when XRP had that news, if you guys remember, where XRP was like up 2x in a day for whatever reason.
Yeah.
I don't know why people will ever buy that asset, to be honest.
Whoa.
It's so mind blowing, dude, that
First of all, that's my largest holding. So we're going to have to talk.
Dude, that token has been in the top 10 for 4 cycles. Actually, no, 3 cycles. And the 2015, 2017 cycle, 2020, 2021 cycle, and now this cycle as well. It has been around for a long time, and it goes to show just how wealthy these people from the Ripple ICO still are, right? That private sale that they did. Or I think it was a pre-mine, but I know there was some sort of seed round of sorts, and there's this huge dispute about this person has 10% equity or something like that. I know Josh probably knows more about it than myself, but then the next that next candle to the upside where everything was just going crazy was around early November when we pushed through 40,000, where every alt, regardless if you were in obscure layer 2s like Arbitrum, whether you were on Sui or Say, whether you were on Injective, whether you were on Solana, those couple of weeks from November all the way through late December, right? That was absolutely beautiful. And I think that you might see a smaller version of that going into the second half of the summertime, up until probably at the very minimum, I think we have a window until, I would say, mid-August, right? About a month or so, a couple of weeks before FOMC in September. So you got to lock in, man, because these alts, bro, as we're seeing right now, they can push up a lot faster than people want to believe, to be honest.
Can you pull up the Ethereum Bitcoin chart? Very curious to see. And then we could do even the -10 market cap. But yeah, I mean, to your point there, this is something everybody's been expecting to break out with the Ethereum ETF. I think you're going to see a lot of that interest. And we can ask chat here too. Chat, type 1 in chat if you bought the dip. Type 2 if you didn't. Just be completely honest. Like, no one's here's the judge or anything. It's just a lot of people are new to these cycles.
Type 1 in chat. Type 1 in chat.
I want to see the type 1s. It's really hard to buy the dips. It's really, really hard. It's why I built a fear and greed index. It's still people hate it, but I'm like, the fear and greed index, low key, still the greatest indicator on the entire market, bro.
We were at like 22 on the fear and greed index. We were at 22. Like, how could you?
People were shorting that.
How could you be bearish on July 4th, bro? Like, July 4th, really?
Since Luna, by the way, 22. I don't think we've seen since FTX didn't even get us that low.
And it's insane, Josh. Right? Like, when you have forced sellers, you want to buy that. You want to buy that. Because at that point, the only thing that most of these altcoins have are trap shorts. And we have seen time and time again how heavy altcoins can run, where all you really have is a bunch of shorts that are waiting to be blown out. So once you have that happen, what happens to people that sold the lows? They buy back in. And then all of a sudden, you see these alts trading 2, 3, 4x above their previous all-time high. And Josh, I actually wanted to ask you a question before we touch upon ETH BTC. So there's this app that an associate of mine has been working on. I think it's called Moonshot, right? Moonshot. Dorito mentioned it. Yeah, Moonshot. It's this app that was released a couple of months ago, and you're basically able to buy meme coins just using Apple Pay. And all you see on that app is just meme coins on Sol and on ETH, I believe. And all of those tokens are the biggest gainers today. And I'm kind of thinking here, Josh, right? Like, when we think about what is the next platform to onboard retail, it's not a DeFi platform, right? I think a lot of people are kind of scared off with DeFi due to what happened last cycle. Because even to the upside, if you remember, we had things like Iron Finance, all the Ohm forks. We had Luna happen, right? And I think a lot of people are kind of scared off, at least for now, to use DeFi. So I think it's probably going to be some sort of app on the App Store, or maybe things like maybe a crypto specific feature on Robinhood, right? Maybe you can interact with DeFi there, right? Because you're able to do that on the Coinbase app. And if you compare Robinhood to Coinbase, right, we all know Robinhood is basically Citadel's baby. So who's to say Ken Griffith doesn't want a piece of the pie when it comes to the innovation, dubious stuff that this market has to offer, man? What are your thoughts on platforms like that, man?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very obvious. That's how we, see that mass adoption, if that's what you're looking for. I mean, in terms of, the meme coins, that's where I keep talking about Solanas and stuff that are going to, that's the infrastructure plays. Like, VCs aren't worried about buying Solana and doubling their position. They're worried about buying, things like Moonshot apparently here that, you're going to profit off the transactions. Because of course, if you could buy meme coins with Apple Pay, they're probably taking a 2, 3, 5% transaction fee off the back end. That's where these companies make their money. They also make it off advertisements. So, DeFi applications where people messed up, like NFTs, I think are going to be completely dead in terms of the NFT is just it's gross. Even saying the word NFT just sounds like I don't even know. It just sounds scammy. It's gross. It's been broken. And I don't think NFTs are dead in the sense that they're not going to come back. I think it needs to come back in the way of, you don't say that word. You just build an application that on the back end, maybe things are non-fungible. The audience doesn't need to know that. That scares them away from it. So, even myself, I've been building tools that are all Web 2 focused. I think Web 2 gaming can be, Web 3 gaming. Shouldn't be called Web 3 gaming. Stop butchering yourself and calling, oh, we're a Web 3 game. We're decentralized. Nobody wants that. Okay. If you ask 9 out of 10 people, are they okay with, using Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, even though their data is being pulled? They're going to say yes. They're like, I don't care. They don't care about that stuff. So what we need to see is an integration of just applications being built where in this case, it's seamless to buy a token that you can use Web 2 functionality and the user doesn't realize this is actually a Web 3 experience. So I definitely think that's the future of this. You know, I want to build, you know, I even have an idea for a game that's like, you know, that I want to build out. So we already have it funded and everything. It's just going to take a really long time. But ultimately, it's, you know, again, it's a Web3 game, but nobody realizes it. So like on the back end, you could put in a marketplace that is, you know, non-fungible, and you could take 15% taxes off, you know, each transaction traded for the skins in game, stuff like that. I think Web3, like for example, BlackRock, or not BlackRock, but Black Ops, or, you know, Call of Duty, they shouldn't launch a token. People that want tokens in a, you know, in a video game, I'm sorry, it hasn't worked yet, and I don't think it's going to work. It's going to be very, very, very complex. They should just be creating an in-game marketplace that's on chain, allows instant trading, because then this is liquid. So you can take that, you know, asset, put it into a stable coin, right? Then they take a, you know, transaction fee off the stable coins traded if on another marketplace if they own other games. But no matter what, they should be just adding a tax fee to that token. The reason why you want it on chain, because you don't want Call of Duty just to have a marketplace in game that has no, you can't transfer that asset. It's not liquid. So putting it on chain is still smart, but you need to do it in a way that retail doesn't actually realize that's what's taking place.
Yeah, and that's real, dude. That's real. But yeah, dude, ETH BTC. I think we're gonna have some sort of movement. Probably when the ETH ETF goes live, dude. To be honest, right? Like I think small caps kind of gave you that hint, but you know, to touch upon Josh's point, right, with things like gaming, I think you'll probably see that sometime next year. And of course, I do have my biases. I do think that like the reason why you're seeing 99% of altcoins basically do nothing, and it's only like 2, 3, 4 dozen tickers that have been doing anything over the last year, is because if you're a project right now and you're trying to do something, this current administration hates you. So people are just forced to bid memes, right? And maybe there's only like a handful of fundamental coins that have done anything right, like an Ondo, right, or an Injective or a Sol, things like that. But I do think you'll see the traditional altcoin rally once this ETH ETF gets up live and running. But I think it's probably like the last few weeks of the year. I think you'll see beauty happen, in my honest opinion, right? And again, like I'm only going by what the market is telling me, right? Like if it's pricing in a current administration winning, I'm gonna have to go with it, man. I'm gonna have to go with it. The stars are aligning here. Even the charts are telling you, man. Like once ETH BTC breaks out of that trend line, I think it's really gonna push up, right? And another interesting metric that I use, right, for like broader risk on is probably Sol ETH, right? That thing is doing quite well off of those lows. And funny enough, man, Sol had actually bottomed before like most of the market. Earlier in June, it hit 107, and on some exchanges, it wicked down to 100. That's insane, dude. That's insane. But Louie, what are we thinking here, man?
Yeah, so this is ETH BTC. And you can see there's similarities here between 2021 and now. But there's one thing that's different for the last 3 cycles. This is 2017, 2018 bull run. This was the 2021 bull run. And you could tell that these big pumps at ETH BTC are becoming smaller. You know what I mean? So like in 2017, 2018, obviously ETH BTC ratio pumped. Huge disparity between ETH and BTC. We got a nice bottom bear market. We broke out and we did the same thing, but we pumped a lot less. And now this past bear market, you could tell that we didn't drop as much as we did in 2017 and 2018. We actually kind of like traded sideways more or less. So that's telling us that ETH and BTC are trading more in parity together in tandem versus ETH and Bitcoin kind of just going back and forth. Which is good because that's kind of like the maturity of ETH as an asset. You know what I mean? It's kind of stabilizing itself as the number 2. And I think that's going to continue. I don't think we're going to continue to get these large, massive breakouts like we've seen in the past. I think we're going to get something, of course, if once the ETH ETF hits or whatever the narrative you want to use, we're still going to get a push up here, which I think is probably soon. Because as you can see, we saw something similar back in September 20. We had our sideways, we had our deviation low, we had our downtrend break, and then it was sayonara 2021 alt season bull market. And we're basically right there. We got our sideways, we got our deviation low, and we're probably gearing up to break this downtrend here sooner or later. But my point is that most people are waiting for a massive flip in the ETH BTC pair, and I just don't think we're going to get it. I don't think it's going to be as big as people think. And I think, honestly, if you were waiting this whole time just for this to flip to get into ETH, I think you missed out on a lot of gains already. So I think it's going to be less and less kind of an indicator for altcoins strength moving forward. I'm not saying it's not important, but you could see that there's a change and shift in this chart from what we've seen in the past.
Ooh, that Velo update. I love to see
Yeah.
it. Yeah, no, I don't think retail realize that's another huge takeaway is like it is going to break out, I think, at one point. Just like Bitcoin's breaking out right now, and it's a beautiful chart, seeing that above 67K. But is the fact that they're all ready for some alt season, ICO season boom that we had in 2021. And we're just not going to get that again. I mean, there's tens of thousands of cryptos now. The infrastructure plays, you don't need 400 layer ones. You don't need 400 layer twos. You don't need 400 different, Web3 studios, right? Not all of these are going to succeed. So even though we have, all this money flooding in, I do think we go to $6-8 trillion market cap this cycle. That has to go out and distribute among, thousands and thousands of more cryptos. So, something as well, like it's a good point from your perspective here. When that chart does break out, that's going to be another indication. You're going to see every single content creator talk about it. Alt seasons here. And there will be I do think there's going to be a pretty, there'll be an alt season. It's just not going to be what people would expect. And that's when you get that FOMO in again. And then, unfortunately, you get the institutions that just take advantage of the situation, liquidity grab, move higher.
Yeah, exactly.
Dude, guys, we are pumping viciously now.
Yes, we are.
We just hit 67.1. ETH is about to pass 3,600. Brother, man, oh man. Imagine actually going out to touch grass now after July 4th.
Imagine selling last week.
Time to lock in.
Legit, dude. And lock-in is doing quite well.
That auto chart's beautiful on the 15-minute.
On Solana, dude. But
you see that auto chart 15-minute for you, Louie?
What'd you say? Sorry.
Pull up Ondo on the 15-minute.
We also have a comment from Dorito. Memes bidding hard because no yield farming from VCs or unlocks to dump with 10 bill FDV after Luna retail likely bids memes heavy. And then that's facts, dude. Since the market bottomed with FTX, we had Bonk, and then we had Pepe, then Ticker Bitcoin, and then Mog, things on Sol. Then Q1, we had things on Base, more things on Sol, more things on ETH. Q2, we had that echo bubble on Base. And now we're kind of seeing a resurgence and, the market's hand on Sol memes again, right? But we do have some, utility plays that have bottomed out, right, that are doing quite well, right? Like Say is up 65-70% off the lows. You even have crap like Dime that's up 150% off of the lows. So, like I said, right, a couple of weeks ago on our shows, at some point when you have things across the board down 80+%, the only thing left are trap shorts. And to prop up these alts, it's not going to take much. Add in that with incoming, ETF flows, more stable coins being printed, monetary policy obviously going into a period of easing over the next couple of quarters. Least path of resistance is to the upside, right? So, Oh, and also, by the way, 365 days ago, here in the comments, Mog was created. That's kind of that's one of my top picks for this cycle outside of Pepe. But
yeah, Ondo looks good here. Ondo looks good. Another one I'm looking at, I don't know, you probably know a lot more about the on-chain stuff. What do you think about Rio? I've been accumulating Rio. I know it was a leader on the last RWA run. It actually looks very similar to Ondo, where it had a nice pump, middle of last year. We came down into demand, held demand. We flipped this key level. That's why I had marked out key reclaim. I was given the buy call in the Discord. Hopefully some of my guys took it. I was accumulating down here. And now we're pushing higher here. I really like Rio. I'm locked in my position. So what are your thoughts on that, Josh?
Yeah, it's it's a 10 mil market cap, so you just got to take it as a it's a moonbag play here. So I'll categorize it. So BlackRock's product, the number one RWA play out there is Chainlink. I mean, that's the Oracle provider that is partnered with Securitized, that is behind the Biddle institutional product. I mean, technically, Ondo did just surpass that today. The reason why I'm such a huge advocate for Ondo is because of this article right here. They are the reason behind all of BlackRock's success. There's no disputing this. It's that they are not only their largest client, they're also the largest player in the sector. And I think it's only a matter of time before you see a lot of integration. You see their CEO at these web, TradFi conferences speaking with individuals that are representing the tokenized efforts. Rio, I think, is great to have in the portfolio. I think that we are going to have a massive tokenized treasury run. I don't think people understand the value of this sector. This is what blockchain, in my opinion, was built for. It's to access that. It's the greatest utility. I mean, you're looking 365, 24/7 liquidity, reduction of cost of governance fees, making governance models 4,000 times more effective. It's going to reduce BlackRock's, this what allows automation to just skyrocket. The data that is going to be farmed from these is going to be immense. This is the sector for, I think, the next bull run. And so, having that access and diversifying that portfolio, I hold things like Trueflation. There's also swarm markets. If you guys actually go onto rwa.xyz, TrueFi's on here. I've been watching this since there was 5 things on this website, and you're seeing a lot of the tokenized plays start to get added. So you have Maple Finance is one. I don't hold this one, built on Ethereum. They just launched a new cash management pool. So those private equity products that you're watching, for example, with Rio, I think markets are going to realize the value to that. It comes down to the team on, what are going to be the partnerships and integrations with the TradFi sector. Because you'll notice here, a lot of these, I've been watching this for a very long time. Here's Maple. They have 6 million on Solana. So Maple is also one of the largest ones on Sol, as well as Base Network with another 20 million in their cash management protocol for USDC. So I'm just watching these holders, and I've been watching them for a very, very long time. Ondo, when we first were looking at this, it was sub 100. So now we're at over 4,000 holders.
So Ondo is the darling as of now.
It is the darling, but when I diversify that portfolio, I want those moonshots, right? Because if Ondo goes to $3-4, all of a sudden Rio's doing a 10x, right? Versus a 2x like these bigger protocols. So I would diversify. I don't think it's at all wrong with it. I hold TrueFi right here as well. It's got 18 million, but notice 2 holders. So you want to this is a fantastic website.
Yeah, I'm gonna check that out.
I really recommend this website. That's kind of this is the website right now.
Cool.
Guys, go ahead and smash that like button. I see the comment section is going pretty crazy. But on-chain gains, yeah, dude, we've been talking about WIF basically the entire year. We've been pretty active on Sol since early Q4 of last year. And I do think WIF is probably going to trade at $10 or something, probably sometime next year. But,
yeah, I did want to say really quick, Relio probably will be on this website because it is private equity. Private equity, they've added all of these. Stocks used to not be on here. Global bonds wasn't on here. Private equity is coming soon. So just know, as this website gets more and more popular, this could actually incite volume to things like Rio just when private equity is released and it does get added. If you go to Stablecoins, I mean, you can literally see all the stable coins that exist on the markets. You can go to private credit. Private credit's going to have, a few different, again, TrueFi's on here, Goldfinch, Maple. So, I would watch out for it. Could be very bullish.
Dude, and I'll say this, right? When it comes to the more VC type of projects, I think another reason why you're not really seeing a lot of centralized exchange altcoins doing anything is because in the summertime people usually fuck off. Sorry for the language, but they're usually in Mykonos or Ibiza or in Dubai, hanging out for a couple of months until Q4, right? Most of the action, right, in both the stock market and in this market usually happens in Q1 and Q4. You can look at last year, right? Q1 and Q4 was basically most of the volatility. The year before that and the year before that, you can date this all the way back to 2015, basically. Q1, Q4, those are the most active quarters for volatility. I mean, of course, we do have Q2 of 2022, but that was because of Luna, right? But scrolling through the comment section, man, I haven't checked this out in a couple of minutes, but do a quick Brett analysis, guys. I think Brett's probably going to trade at 10 bill, to be honest. It's really it's one of the only blue chips on base, honestly. And if you're bullish on Pepe, right, Brett's obviously going to do quite well, right? Brett, Andy, Wolf, all those things are gonna be doing quite well, right? WTF, these coins are really pumping. Are we back in a bull or something? Well, we have
We've been
been
in a bull.
FTX bottomed, to be honest. Like, we've been in a bull since FTX basically capitulated, and we had the same sentiment, right? Like, oh, this market's a scam, blah 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 blah. But happens every cycle, right? 69, perhaps, probably the weekend, right? Like, let me see how equities are doing, actually, man. Let me see how IWM is doing. Nah, it's still choppy. Yeah, we're still chopping. Yeah, mega cap tech stocks are actually like down on the day. But Centrifuge, man, I haven't seen that. Oh, Mantra. Yeah, Mr. Spread loves Mantra, man. Like, when I was coming back to South Florida from ETH Denver, one of the guys from Mantra DAO, I forget his name, but like, he's like 6'5", 6'6", or something like that. And like, he was talking about how Mantra is rebranding to RWAs, and they're going on calls with like institutional people from Dubai and all that stuff. And he's like, yo, price is gonna pump pretty hard. You should probably get in. And like, he told it to my face, dude. Like, dude, a lot of people forget, but like
100x a cycle. This is one of your first. This is your Polygon Matic of 2025, 2024.
dude, like, what a lot of people forget is that, like, dude, these teams, right? They have a lot of like insider info, and same thing with the stock market, right? Like, just take a look at Nancy Pelosi and all those things, right? And going back to our earlier statements, right? This market is basically Wall Street 2.0, right? You either love the game because it's a scam, or you complain because it's a scam, right? Like, it works in both directions, right? But someone's asking again if we can like cover Brett. Louie, I'm not sure if you want to pull up that chart.
And to Sosa, my favorite one, like I said, was Ondo there, but I pulled out quite a few here. This is like just as you pull that up. These are some of the biggest protocols out there. I'm not the biggest fan of Clear, but just ones to look into. I think Ondo by far. Mantra is the layer 1 for RWAs, but I like, again, look at this chart. Like, I'm not telling people to hop into this.
Josh, are they still doing that stuff with Polkadot, or like, did they go off and do their own thing? Because I remember Mantra DAO back in 2020 when I was farming that thing. I remember Mantra DAO from 2020. Like, I still have that wallet.
It looks like it's base, Polygon, and BNB now. So,
jeez, man.
You like, yeah. I mean, you do have the E. So, let me pull it up here. I'll let you know in 2 seconds.
Yeah, Brett looks good.
Because like the parachains, I think failed, right? But no, that's Manta. Are you sure you're talking about Mantra or Manta?
Mantra DAO. OM. Yeah, Mantra.
Was that on Polkadot?
Yeah, it was. Like their TGE was in 2020.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So looks like they completely flipped out of it.
Yeah.
I mean, Polkadot, like, they have a lot going from now. They're like definitely revamping because they have to like make a switch on.
Doesn't it just remind you of EOS, dude? Like, EOS, I remember when I got into the market in 2017. EOS was poised to like flip ETH and all that stuff. They were the biggest ICO. They had billions in their treasury and their war chest. Mike Novogratz was shilling them hard because he got into their pre-seed round and was up like 1,000x. And they didn't do anything, dude. They didn't do a damn thing. And even in the 2020, 2021 cycle, and they still had all that runway, the market legit said, you're not even worth retesting the old all-time high. You're only like worthy of capturing 90% of those gains, right? And that's it. Like, you'll never come back again. And the thing is, right, like, people forget, but a lot of these ICOs, they don't have to do anything now, dude. They have all that ETH that they raised from prior cycles, dude. Golem, right? An ICO from 2016. They still have all that ETH, man. Why would they go ahead and try to innovate and hire market makers to pump up their price and all those other things? No way, dude. Just have a couple thousand ETH and just stake it, live off of that yield, and LARP. You know what I'm saying?
LARP. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, because I don't want to discount. They're still worth $10 billion. So this is just like, I point to like Polkadot, even Solana, you know, a lot of those top layer ones from last cycle, BNB, et cetera. Like I think they can maybe hit all-time highs, but like I'm not expecting these to do, these are blue chips at this point. So, you know, the mantras here, like, yeah, it's 100x a cycle. It's only $1 billion market cap, right? So it's still a tenth of the size. So there's still a lot of development I find to these. It just, this is where retail needs to realize, you know, I always go, well, what about Polkadot? What about Polygon Matic? I'm like, what about Chainlink? And I'm like, well, I think Chainlink can go to $50. I know that's very conservative. A lot of people think that can go to 100, et cetera, yada, yada, yada. Yeah, I just look at it as there's so many altcoins in these markets now. These things are massive token. I mean, $10 billion. If this thing goes to $30 billion, I think that's very successful for Polkadot. That's just not all-time highs. You know, that's going to be a $18 to $20 Polkadot when it's hit, you know, 30, 40 bucks, you know, previous cycle. So I just have a different outlook on that. You know, I don't trash on people that hold Polkadot. I think that, you know, the fact that they've realized parachains weren't necessarily the best functionality, they focus on new interoperability functions, and they're investing and have hackathons and everything. It's still beneficial to the ecosystem because it allows projects like this to exist. It allows Mantra and Ohm to, you know, really gain steam and get funding. And, you know, they're responsible for a lot of the grant programs. So if it wasn't for the dots or the BNBs out there, I've changed my perspective a lot on it. It's like we needed these projects, these initial infrastructure plays, to allow things like Toncoin to exist today. You know, you needed Tron. Like it opened my eyes when I left the country. Like people don't realize, like people always trash on Tron. I used to trash on Tron all the time, but then you realize like everybody in South America and everybody in the Middle East use Tron. Nobody uses ERC.
We are absolutely sending right now, man. I have to say that, dude. We're about to test it. That is. Dude, that is beautiful, bro.
There goes Santo here, but let me pull a Bitcoin chart for you.
Dude, that is something else. On a Friday.
7.5, guys.
On a Friday, dude.
If we get an altcoin weekend, I think that's like, it's time. Yeah, I mean, it's like, it's go time for sure. I mean, I've already been thinking that, but like, that's confirmation. Altcoin weekend this weekend. Strap in. Everybody, dude, strap in.
Pull out the hourly.
That's the 4-hour chart.
Yeah.
Pull out the hourly and start it on July 4th up until now, and tell me that doesn't look like a massive bull market that's been in progress for a while, all the way from July 4th.
Yeah, right there.
There's your 4th.
Yeah, bro, dude, like that's just the way I'm looking at it, man. I think all of the froth that came into the market in Q1 got
25%. 25%.
They got rinsed.
That is a 25% run right there. This is my point, though, to like next week. Like, I would love to see all-time highs. I mean, if we're looking at all-time highs, right, this is where I see a liquidation event occurring, right? So you go, that's a 33% gain on Bitcoin. And that's not impossible, right? The last breakout we had, which this is what I would pay attention to, right? Because you have the same liquidation occurrences generally at like every major level. So the last one was Jan 6. Like liquidations were all over the board. This is why I was talking about actually hopping out when we had that first initial run up. So if you go back to January 10th, and then you look out that breakout here, let's go back to what is that exponential move once it did break out?
90%.
90%. 90%.
Josh,
so
is that the stock RSI that you have pulled up on your trading view?
Yes.
Yeah. I think we have more than enough room to get above those previous levels that we were at in March. Like, look at how low we were at the stock RSI. We were almost at the same place, Josh, when we first met at range lows from Q3, right? At 25, 26K. And dude, like it was the same kind of like pessimistic, right? When I was on Spaces, just people just saying like, oh, that was the top. Alts are never going to run again. Like that was the macro cycle top. And it's like, people just refuse to look at TA sometimes, right? Just like the most, not even TA, but like just the most basic signal, right? Like fear and greed, stock RSI, seeing where liquidations are, and just seeing at what's ahead of you over the next couple of weeks and try to factor that into any bias that you can come up with, right? Like my bias is obviously up because you literally have institutions about to come in to buy spot ETH.
My favorite perspective is like looking at previous highs in like 2021. And you're looking at when you're hitting all-time highs, RSI's all the way overbought, right? Every time, like RSI is a great way. Like if you bought historically when the RSI on the daily is oversold, you'd be up massively, especially if you dollar cost average, right? If you just DCA'd every single time it hit. Yeah, now we hit all-time highs here. You know, the RSI is over. Like this is this is straight up consolidation at previous all-time highs. And then again, when you look at it too, and you go to like 20, like right, we go back here. You know, every time this is normal cycle behavior. This is normal market behavior. Every time before we get that breakout, you have that week, you know, multiple weeks of consolidation. And so we haven't seen really anything change here. You know, even if you did want to follow that 4-year cycle, which is actually crazy to think about. So
yeah, we're like 250 days to go.
Yeah. Yeah, we got
historically
plenty of time.
Low to high on Bitcoin, it's like a 900-day cycle. I think that's where most people got messed up. It was like we made a new all-time high well before we normally do, and well earlier in the cycle that we normally do. So the fact that we traded sideways up here for 4 months was kind of like, okay, like we kind of had that exponential run up a little earlier than usual. You know, we have time to chop. But yeah, we're still only like 600 and something days into the cycle, when usually, you know, on average, we see about a 900-day cycle, which puts us in the, you know, ending a cycle around end of Q1, early 2Q of next year. So that's also another thing. Is context of where we are in the cycle is very important. Like I heard everyone saying, we had a market structure break. Yeah, great. Like I do TA. I get it. And I understand why you'd be bearish with that, but like, where are we in the cycle? We still have a lot of time to go historically from what we've seen. And that's another point. Like context is key.
Yeah. It's I don't know what the price point will be. It just, everything's incredibly bullish at this point. I think people just need to sit back, and it's cyclical. It's when everybody's fearful, be greedy. When everybody's greedy, be fearful. And so if you see that context shift, once we're back above 70K, and if we're moving into 73, 74, 75 all-time highs next week, you know, 80, let's say 80,000. Some people are saying 80,000 by, you know, Friday when Trump speaks at the Bitcoin Nashville. I don't know if that's possible. I think it would give me a heart attack. I'm taking massive profit, and then I will buy that dip when we get that 20% pullback back to 70K. And then I'll enter again, because I think we're gonna have an insane run to the FOMC meeting in September.
The truth be told, man, I think next week could lead us to local tops. But the thing is, it's like we're probably going to be trading a lot higher from here, right?
Yeah.
So that's another thing to keep in mind. And also,
that would be a trade setup. Yeah, that's all I'm looking for. Not bearish at all in any means.
Yeah, like you're starting to have talk about nation states already backing up their currency with BTC, and you know, when you have that sort of rhetoric around this time, it gets priced in quite heavily, because there's just not that many people that are active right now as there is in Q1 and in Q4, right? But, you know, ultimately, man, I think just the overall message is survive until 25, right? Survive until 25. And that's really the key here, man. But before I wrap up here, guys, is there anything else that you wanted to share, or are we all good here, man?
I think that's really it on the markets here. I mean, I'm just pulling up to see if I could see any oh, not the 20. That's terrible. It's terrible.
That's actually crazy, dude. Like we pumped a full stack plus within the last hour, dude. And that's with strength also. Like, I wonder if it's just one massive bidder happening, or is it like multiple entities bidding at the same time, right? Because like we don't usually do much on a Friday, right? It's usually like, all right, weekend pump, weekend dump. And, you know, if we do have some follow through, right, because burgers aren't active on weekends, brother, I think we're retesting.
I would watch for that. Yeah, that's a good point. Because if we do have a crazy weekend, I want people, like, if whatever we close at today, I don't want to be at 69 because we'll come back and fill that futures gap. Although we have this massive one on the daily, but I don't know if we're coming back to this, which is interesting to think about. You know, oftentimes we do fill these future gaps on, you know, on Bitcoin's charts here. So there is a pretty significant one that was created, but we had a lot of really bullish news that day. And it might just be the last time I think we saw one this big was all the way down. I don't even remember where it was.
It's at like 20K, 21K, something like that.
So you know exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I remember in Q3 when we had that like panic sell, whatever, that huge liquidation event, where, you know, it's always like, oh, the biggest liquidation event since FTX, oh, the biggest liquidation event since 3AC, right? Whenever we have those sort of like, you know, price fluctuations to the downside, it does tend to be a local bottom, but there's always this hive mind group that's like, oh, it could always go lower, oh, there could always be a deviation. But I don't know, just stare at things in front of you and just be perpetually optimistic, right? Like, we're going into a period of easing globally for the first time since
Oh, did you
October of
also?
2020. And on top of that, I think M2, if we can pull up M2, Louis, before you close out here, I think M2 actually made a new all-time high, or is just breaking out like right now.
Do you also see this as he pulls that up?
Yeah,
The 12 month,
I have you pulled up here.
yeah, there's
on
billions of dollars that will be injected from
So
retribution.
is that in tokens or in straight cash, Josh?
Straight cash, dude. So
Bro.
some of it, I think 4 billion of it, 8.7 billion, I believe, goes to retribution for creditors. So that is a larger injection than the sell-off amount Gox, which is crazy. Yeah, here you go. So debtors will consent to the entry of stipulated and liquidated judgment of disgorgement of 4 billion and restitution of $8.7 billion in district court action. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how much of this actually goes over to, you know, a lot of those. It'll be interesting how much of this actually inflows just right back into the crypto market.
A lot.
A lot. Yeah. Even if it's 3 billion, there's your amount. That's literally your amount Gox FUD. It's like, boom, just eaten up instantly. It's everything's incredibly bullish, stupid bullish. But yeah, you got anything left?
Yeah, I think Louis has M2.
M2's bullish. Yeah,
M2
M2
looks
bullish.
like it's curling.
It's actually curling upwards now, man. After being flatlined for a minute, dude.
Yep.
So
hopefully we don't get a complacency shoulder.
Oh gosh,
we don't want this.
Doing TA on
M2. On M2,
right? But guys, I want to thank you all so much for tuning into the stream. Go ahead and smash that like button if you enjoyed the last hour plus of content. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel. We're almost at 20K followers. Shout out to the entire team: Max, Louie, Will, Tucker, Tommy, Jackus. You guys do a phenomenal job here on YouTube. I'll be back next Friday, and yeah, hopefully when I see market check sometime next week, there's only 3 or 4 of you guys on there, so you guys can make room for me. Always love going on YouTube. I've actually grown an affinity to YouTube, man. I love streaming content like this, man.
This was good. We got to do this more often, man.
Yeah, dude. So well, it's already penciled in that I go live every Friday. I'm gonna try to see, like, maybe one day, like, one of the guys, if they want to take a break once a week or something, I'll just fill in for them. I'd rather do it like that rather than like have 7 screens pulled up, right?
No, this is good. We should make it like the afternoon show, you know?
Yeah,
you and a guest, whatever.
At some point, maybe, like, I don't know, maybe during the bear market, I'll start doing more YouTube stuff. But anyways, man, Josh, dude, thank you so much for coming on, dude. Love doing content with you, brother. Any last words, man, that you want to say here?
That's all I got, guys. Just, you know, get bullish, stop falling for the fear and greed in the markets. You know, just look at the data, look at the macros and where we're heading. Everything. There's not a single bearish event that happens in the next 3 to 6 months, in my perspective. I mean, you have the ETFs, you have institutions, you have presidential candidates, you have U.S. treasuries being bought by almost every single corporation. The tokenization of those treasuries is going to open up even more liquidity. It's just a perfect lesson to understand, guys, that liquidations do matter. And this is an institution game, not a retail. So when you guys, you know, when we get a 30% pullback, I mean, I could pull up the thousands of times it's happened in these cycles where if you are a retail reacting to that market capitulating out, 9 times out of 10, you end up getting, you know, completely wrecked, and markets just go the opposite direction. So get excited. I would create those watch lists. I would start focusing on what are going to be the biggest beneficiaries of this bull run. I think that's going to be primarily, again, tokenization. I think AI and DePIN can have another spark into Q1 of 2025, especially with the sales and institutional the transitions into large language models with OpenAI and all these new service devices. That's what I got for you guys. Get excited. I'm bullish. Thanks for having me on today.
Preach, brother. Josh, thank you. Louie, thank you. You guys can follow all of our guys and Josh here in the description box below. We'll see you all on Spaces and on YouTube on Monday. God bless you all. May the candles be in your favor. And yeah, what a way to end the show, man. Later, guys. Take care. God bless you all. Peace.
Peace.
And stream.